today. Folks, as you're coming in, we're going to get started in a few minutes with our virtual luncheon. Wait another minute or two before we launch things. So. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and get started this afternoon. Good afternoon, and welcome to the May monthly luncheon of the Covington Business Council. I'm CBC Executive Director Pat Frew. Thank you for joining us. First, we want to acknowledge our title sponsor. Our 2021 CBS Luncheon Season title sponsor is St. Elizabeth Healthcare. St. Elizabeth Healthcare operates 6 facilities and more than 160 primary care and specialty office locations throughout the Northern Kentucky, Southeastern Indiana, and Greater Cincinnati region. Sponsored by the Diocese of Covington and a member of the Mayo Clinic Care Network, St. Elizabeth is a mission-based organization committed to improving the health of the communities they serve, providing more than $100 million in uncompensated care and benefit to the community each year. Now we want to turn to some upcoming CBC events. Every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m., join us for virtual CBC Connects, where you can link up with leaders of for and nonprofit organizations to learn the latest about their products and services. And it's a really good snapshot of things going on throughout the region. We also highlight some great networking activities and events coming up. And we average about 24 people, as many as 30 people. I think we had 31 people on the call yesterday. So it's a lively hour together. We hope you join us. You can sign up for that as you get the newsletter every week. There are instructions on how to register for that, or you can do so through our cbcky.com website. Remember, the CBC is your access to opportunity and growth, and CBC Connects, that's what that's all about. Next Tuesday, May 25th, noon to 1, we will be having our quarterly nonprofit lunch and learn with partner Von Lehman. As you can see, we have a strong panel there exploring the impact COVID-19 has made on charities, fundraising, donor relations, volunteerism, etc. Hope you can join us for that next Tuesday, the 25th. We promised a big announcement today, and this is it. With the pandemic restrictions coming down, we are pleased to announce that our June 17th luncheon will be an in-person event. Yay, we should have the crowd noise in for this. We will be holding it at the Grand Conference Center at 5th and Madison, 11:30 networking and registration, noon to 1 will be the program. We'll be featuring a pilot project that CBC and the city are supporting along with Covington Partners. We call it work-based mentoring. Covington Partners, the Covington Independent Schools Foundation, successfully launched a trial of this program through the Sawyers Group, a pilot a year ago. And we'll be detailing how other Covington-based businesses can get involved in helping Holmes High School students move directly into the workforce from high school, discovering careers they can begin with the simultaneous secondary education component. We hope you can join us in person at the Grand on June 17th. Now, we want to explore some of the latest news in Covington's Economic Development Department with Director Tom West. We also refer to this sometime as the growth report because that's usually what Tom is talking about. It's addition, folks, and not subtraction. So, Tom, welcome. Take it away and tell us the latest happenings in your world.
Great. Thanks, Pat. And thanks, everybody, for being here today. It's good. If you can see me, you can see I'm back in the office, and that's good to be back out and about. And it's good to hear that we're going to be meeting in person next month. Last week, many of you may know, was Economic Development Week. We promoted that I think very effectively as far as Covington's activities go. We had a vacant properties incentive that we drew a lot of attention to. And in fact, it's great. Yesterday, we had our first application for that, which allows owners of properties commercial properties that have been vacant for at least 2 years to recoup some of their rehab dollars through payroll tax when they attract a tenant to that. The other thing that we did, and we got a lot of very positive attention for this, and it was probably the least expensive of all the things, is we gave out 5 what we're calling Authenticity Awards, because we celebrate our authenticity here in Covington. So on Monday, we recognized Gutierrez Deli up on MLK. On Tuesday, Hale Records and Oddities, which if you haven't been in there, it's worth a trip just to see the one-eyed taxidermy deer, if nothing else. They're over in Mainstrasse. On Wednesday, we visited with the folks over at Hub and Weber at Covington Station to recognize their parking lot badminton brawl, which I understand is going to be back this year. So if you haven't got your team together, I would do that. And then we interrupted a hockey game on Thursday night, that's street hockey in Barb Cook Park up in Latonia, to recognize the Covington Street Hockey League. And then the creme de la creme was at the Standard on Friday during happy hour when Ron Padgett received his Authenticity Award for being authentically Ron Padgett. So I kind of described his acceptance speech as a cross between Sally Fields' You Really Like Me, mixed with Kanye West's interruption of Taylor Swift, mixed with Sophie Tucker lying on a piano and singing Nobody Knows What a Red Hot Mama Can Do. So it was quite the event. And then the other thing that we did was, can you guys, I don't know if anybody can see me or not, but I'm holding up right now the ads that we ran in the Business Courier and City Beat. Again, promoting if you move your business to Covington, we're going to throw that in for free. And that's that view of Cincinnati. So we I think, had a really good week for Covington last week. It is, though, in a more serious note, budget season. We've got 3 new workforce initiatives that we're proposing in our budget that deal with everything from IT to building trades, historic preservation workforce initiatives. So we're excited about that, and hopefully those will get funded. The other thing that we've done is to put in there I can't really say anything about it yet, but we'll roll it out here at a CBC Luncheon. And that is a major entrepreneurship investment. So investment in some entrepreneurship infrastructure beyond what we're doing right now with Aviatra, NKU, and the Small Business Development Center. I also want to mention, while we're on workforce, because I know that's the topic today, we've been working very closely with Grow NKY and the Workforce Investment Board to develop some language that we're now putting in all of our incentive contracts with companies when they get a jobs development incentive from the city that will require them to work with those 2 organizations to try and bring Covington residents in when they're hiring new employees, and also to help us figure out what to train those residents for. So I'm very excited about that and really appreciate those 2 organizations and how they've worked with my staff. To kind of close on 2 really interesting notes, we're wrapping up our first round of fixes for the Neighborhood Development Code, which you all used to know as the zoning code. So we said we'd give it 6 months, see what we needed to fix, because we knew it wasn't perfect. So we're getting ready to propose those. We'll probably do another round after it's been in place for a year. So if you have a problem with it, speak now or forever hold your criticisms, or at least for 6 months, hold your criticisms. The last thing I'll just say is we continue to work on office product development. That's a huge priority. We're excited about Republic Bank's renovation the YMCA office space that's going to be available there, the Two Rivers School, the John R. Green Historic Building that will be commercial, and then of course the potential for a new office building at Duveneck Square. So with that, I took longer than my 2 minutes, Pat. I'll apologize, but we had a lot to cover.
Well, that's great. It's never bad news, Tom. So you can certainly go on. And I know a lot of people are very interested in everything you have to say about all the growth metrics that we've seen and things coming down the pike. So thanks for all you do, sir. Appreciate it. And now on to our featured program on Grow NKY. If you're unfamiliar with Grow NKY, hopefully you won't be able to say that after today, because you're going to get an earful about the impact that this great program is having. Grow NKY is an initiative led by the Northern Kentucky Chamber, and GROW is an acronym. It means Growing Regional Outcomes Through Workforce, and it represents a strategic workforce collective made up of leaders across key industries. And some of the best and the brightest are on this panel today, whom you'll be introduced to in a moment. Key industries are involved: educational institutions and community organizations. The goal of GROW is to leverage the region's assets to grow, attract, and retain a globally competitive workforce. We have a great facilitator and panel to flesh out this topic today. So I'm going to step aside after introducing our facilitator today. Lisa Mulcahy serves as the Vice President of Workforce for the Chamber. So leading Grow NKY is a major part of her role. Lisa has worked for the Chamber over a decade in two different iterations, really, after leading the Chamber Foundation previously, in between a stint as Director of Alumni Engagement at Thomas More University, of which she is a graduate. Community is a great way to describe Lisa, if you've never met her before. As a person, she has got great devotion to Covington and the region. She always mentions with pride that she is a Holmes graduate, and her zeal and passion for Northern Kentucky will certainly resonate with you during today's program. So Lisa, welcome. Thanks for facilitating. Take it away. The program is yours.
No, thanks so much, Pat. I'm so glad you mentioned that I'm a Covington grad. You know, I am incredibly proud of that. So thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here today. Before we get started, I just want to do a little bit of level setting around the why behind Grow Northern Kentucky. After hearing Tom talk about the growth in Covington, I'm sure this will be no earth-shattering news to this group for sure. But as we looked at creating Grow Northern Kentucky, we looked at the economic growth across the region and found it to be incredibly important to make sure that our organizations and businesses had a deep well of talent to pull from, and that our community had a broad spectrum of opportunity to go to. So back in 2017, Kentucky SHRM launched a survey with employers across the state, and they found that 84% of these Kentucky employers could not find the qualified workers that they needed. In conjunction with that, the same survey also shared with us that 81% of the employers surveyed projected moderate to high growth in the next 3 to 5 years. So right there, case in point, there's a case for change. Obviously, a huge disconnect. And I'm certain that with businesses across Covington and members of the Covington Business Council, they'll probably tell you the same. They're all in search of talent. Critically important. Before I move forward, I want to talk a little bit about the labor force participation rate. So the labor force participation rate is the proportion of the population of working age adults that are working or actively seeking employment. Now keep that in mind while we're talking. Actively seeking employment is a critical piece of that definition. So pre-pandemic, February of 2020, the Kentucky Center for Statistics shared that the labor force participation rate for Kentucky was at about 59.3%, and Northern Kentucky was about 66% at that point. So as of March 2021, Kentucky Stats is reporting that the state rate is right at 56.7%, ranking 48th in the nation. With the exception of West Virginia, Kentucky's labor force participation is the lowest of the surrounding states, including Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, Ohio, Tennessee, and Virginia. Now, Northern Kentucky, according to our Northern Kentucky Career Center and the Workforce Investment Board, we're right at about 65.5%. And there are a couple of factors that play into that particular data. So first of all, our unemployment rate is certainly improving. You know, people are getting back to work. You know, we're feeling a little bit more confident now that we're all vaccinated. And certainly businesses are reopening. However, another piece of that data is that participation is definitely at a low. We have so many folks, specifically women, that have dropped out of the workforce because of barriers to employment. We're still facing those barriers, like childcare, for instance. So with that, that is really the foundation and case in point for Grow Northern Kentucky. Now more than ever, we need to be on the same page, working together towards a common agenda to really solve for some of the workforce challenges that our businesses and our community is facing, specifically post-pandemic. Next slide. So now that I've shared a little bit about the why of Grow Northern Kentucky, what is Grow Northern Kentucky? So Grow Northern Kentucky, as Pat said, is a strategic workforce collective made up of over 75 partners across our workforce ecosystem. Several partners that you see on the screen today are a part of Grow Northern Kentucky and are key Grow Northern Kentucky partners. So we really created this collective strategy to make sure that we were unifying our workforce development efforts across Northern Kentucky and the region, so that we were aligning our work and working towards a common agenda, but more importantly, that we weren't duplicating efforts and that we were sharing resources. The Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce is the backbone organization that connects, convenes, and coordinates the work of the Grow Northern Kentucky partners. Next slide, please. So Grow Northern Kentucky is a comprehensive, holistic approach to workforce, and I'll share a little bit more about that in just a moment. We believe that it is unique to the Commonwealth, and we are focusing on the supply side as well as the demand side of workforce. We are taking a data-driven approach, and the work in the specific focus areas of Grow Northern Kentucky, we want to make sure that that work is measurable and that we are connecting the dots to those population outcomes that we are seeking to achieve. Next slide. So who is Grow Northern Kentucky? As Pat mentioned, our partnerships cross multi-sector. So it's community-based organizations, it's workforce partners, it's industry partners and education partners alike. And on the screen, you see a listing of our steering committee. This is the piece of Grow Northern Kentucky that is really goal setting, policy directing, and providing overall guidance of the structure of Grow Northern Kentucky. Next slide. So when I talked about that comprehensive holistic approach, this is what I meant. So our model has 5 focus areas, and it's really the life cycle of the talent pipeline, beginning with kindergarten readiness and early childhood education. And as you look at each of these focus areas, are the key leaders that really developed Grow Northern Kentucky felt as if they left any of these pieces out of the puzzle, that we would truly be at a deficit. So beginning with early childhood education and kindergarten readiness, knowing that our employees need quality, affordable childcare, that's the starting point of Grow Northern Kentucky. Then we move to college and career readiness, which is with our K through 12 partners, and then on to adult career readiness and lifelong learning. That includes our post-secondary partners, as well as organizations across Northern Kentucky that provide that adult learning credential that's so needed for skills in different organizations across our ecosystem. And then we move from that supply side of the equation to the demand side, to talent attraction and retention. And that is all about attracting people to the region. It's about being a welcoming community, and it's about retaining people in this region. And then last, but certainly not least, employer policies and practices. So as I mentioned before, actively seeking employment. So employer policy and practice really helps to provide resources to our employers that lower barriers to employment, to really increase that labor force participation rate, keeping in mind that our employers need effective and efficient access to resources across the region. Now, with that said, advocacy touches all of this work. So each of these focus areas has subject matter experts really working toward a common agenda working together to move the needle forward. It's the same thing with advocacy. If we're working in a very aligned approach locally, we absolutely need to be working the same way from a state standpoint. So these same subject matter experts are working to really help us align our legislative agenda at the state level with regard to some of our workforce policy. Next slide. So today we're going to move on to our panel discussion, and we're going to talk to you about a few noteworthy workforce solutions that our Grow Northern Kentucky partners have created over the course of the last 36 months, beginning with some pipeline project conversation, as well as some projects around building a welcoming community. And then we're going to talk a little bit about partnerships that equate to solutions for employers. Next slide. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our panel today, specifically starting with Dr. Karen Chesser. Dr. Chesser is the superintendent of nationally recognized Fort Thomas Independent Schools and formerly deputy superintendent and chief administrative officer of Boone County Schools. For the work of Grow Northern Kentucky, Karen represents the Northern Kentucky Cooperative for Educational Services. Sadly, we will be losing Karen as she is taking the role of superintendent of the Durango, Colorado schools in the very near future, and I can assure you she will be sorely missed. Michael Hall is on our panel, and Michael is currently the cards collection director for Citi, located in Florence, Kentucky, supporting various Citi retail services portfolios. Tara Johnson-Nome is the Associate Director of the Workforce for the Northern Kentucky Area Development District and Director of the Northern Kentucky Workforce Investment Board. Kristen Smitherman-Voltaire is the Community and Citizenship Manager at Turner Construction, and Kristen manages the company's community outreach and economic inclusion efforts. So with that, thank you so much to this panel. As Pat said, they're a pretty impressive group. So I'm really fortunate to work with them and very grateful for the commitment that they have for this work of Grow Northern Kentucky. So I'd like to start with you, Mike, if that's okay.
Sure.
Citi has been a strong employer across the region for quite some time. I know that workforce development has been a priority, as well as support for strong economic development for our region. Citi has made significant investments in the projects of Grow Northern Kentucky. So can you help the group to understand from a business perspective a little bit about why it is so important for Citi to invest time, talent, and treasure into the work of Grow Northern Kentucky?
Certainly, Lisa. First of all, thanks for asking to participate. When I looked at the panel, it was pretty hard to say no on some of that. I heard Pat talk about the best and brightest, and I thought maybe I was on the wrong the rest of the panel, but I'm just glad to be here today. So I would say, and also thanks to the Business Council for having us. Kind of back to your question, and I think it's a great question to start with. And if I'm being honest with you, there's probably two whys from a Citi perspective. I will say is one was survival, and the other was approach. And I say survival this way, while Citi, tends to be one of the largest financial institutions in the world, depending on the ranking, if you're talking asset side and deposit wise, when I think of regional banking, I really think of the brick and mortar space. And for us, personally, our closest branch is 300 LaSalle Street, downtown Chicago. And now while I've been there before, that's not right next door. Our ecosystems or footprint specifically for Citi in Northern Kentucky is more of a mid-large call center type operation. Approximately 2,200 folks in our facility. Pretty much most of us are all virtual still. Looking forward to getting back to an office environment, but still in a virtual environment as we speak. And as I think about it, I talk about the survival, where we place and most importantly, keep our centers is based on several factors: cost, geographic locations, proximity to partners, because we are a retail service partner in a lot of areas, competitive advantage. But one of the most important keys for us is accessibility to resources. So as I think about our ability to recruit, hire, retain qualified workforce for survival is really a survival for us. And I say that for a lot of companies, as I think about some of the folks on the part of the committee today or so forth attending, the key for success for all of us in the region, for large, small, for-profit, not-for-profit startups, is really coming down to that availability of workforce-wise. The second part, I talk about the approach. I've been fortunate to live all over the different parts of the Midwest. In the last 8 years, I've called Northern Kentucky home. And I would say the challenge has been the same. You know, like a lot of groups, we tend to approach things as, and I think this is kind of a mistake, but we approach it of, hey, we have a solution, we can kind of do that. What we liked about Grow and the initiative out of the gate was it was a little bit different. Instead of saying, hey, we have a solution, here it is, we invited people to the table, right? Grow brought folks together and say, hey, what is the right way of kind of going about this? What's the thinking and the design side of it? The other part that we also thought was great, the work-wise, instead of coming up with, hey, we have a solution, there's a lot of great resources in the community today are going on. And I know this is Covington specifically, so I would say things like the Lifelong Learning Center or Kentucky Career Center has done a great job of trying to tackle some of these initiatives overall, very complex problems, right? And so what I liked about Grow, for myself personally, speaking from that standpoint of participating, as well as from a city standpoint, instead of trying to recreate that wheel, instead Grow became more of the glue. And I look at it as more of that overarching reach or backbone of the organization, more of that collaborative to kind of bring folks together and work together on some things around that. What I found over the years, more often than not, it's not that there's not resources available, they don't exist, but it's where do I even start? And I kind of looked at Grow as the initiative and how they started as Grow is the place to start with. For sake of time, not to be long-winded and respectful to the other panelists we have, you know, I'll wrap up with this. At the end of the day, there are more jobs than we have people. And now, while I might not feel that way if I drove on 71, 75 recently, sat in traffic, but as I look at MLS and some of the other people moving in and out of the region, the birth rates, the educational side of it, things that we kind of talked through, it's just a reality with it. So end of the day, for us, and how we looked at Grow and the connectivity, need to look at all aspects of available workforce, so to meet the needs and demands that we're facing today, and most importantly, for in the future. So for sake of time, Lisa, hopefully that's kind of response, but you know, from a city standpoint, to me, it was essential. It wasn't why we'd invest, it was why not. It was kind of key for us. So with that, I'll turn back to you unless there's another question.
No, thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate that. And I think that's a great segue to talk with Tara. And just like you said, you know, talking about collaboration, this is a big challenge for us, and it's going to take all of us to come in together. And I say it all the time, collaboration in Northern Kentucky is truly our superpower. So really appreciate that. Thanks, Mike. So Tara, as we've heard Mike say, and as we know, as we talk to employers across the region, I don't think there is an employer that isn't interested in talking about workforce solutions around hiring and retention. So our Kentucky Career Center is such a gem in the community and a leading partner of Grow Northern Kentucky. So I have two questions actually for you, Tara. First, can you tell us a little bit about the Kentucky Career Center? And second, can you please share with everyone how Grow Northern Kentucky partners are coming together as a SWAT group to connect employers to resources and solutions they need to attract and retain talent?
Absolutely, Lisa. And I'll try to leave as much alphabet soup out of the conversation as I can. So just a very quick, you said level setting, just a little glimpse into what we do. So when you introduced me earlier, you mentioned that I do have two titles. So I'm the Associate Director for Workforce Development at the Northern Kentucky Area Development District. My team in Workforce has a number of programs that we're contracting with through the state or through locally to help individuals get back into the workforce and be financially self-sufficient. The largest of those programs is our role. We have been selected for many years now by our 8-county judge executives. We actually serve an 8-county region to administer their federal workforce dollars. And so that is how we create the Northern Kentucky Workforce Investment Board. We help staff that board. It's made up of 35 individuals, and more than half of those are from the business community, because we know that they're the ones that are going to be actually creating those jobs that we're talking about and really going to be able to guide us. But we have partners from across the spectrum, which is great as well. And if you would like to learn more, just let me know, because we don't have time for me to list them all. But you know, the way that it works is we take those funds and then we're responsible for overseeing the creation of the Kentucky Career Center network here locally in Northern Kentucky. And we do have 8 locations in our 8 counties. And we are very happy to be able to subcontract the operations role. That's actually required that we subcontract that out by federal law. And we do that with Brighton Center. And so Corey Eimer at the Brighton Center is our operator. We actually have our premier or comprehensive center in Covington at 1324 Madison Avenue, and it is open. The Northern Kentucky locations for the Career Center have been open since last November. We were asked to close by the state, and we were the first to reopen after a lot of negotiation with our friends in Frankfurt. And we continue to be the only location where an individual can walk in and receive career services. But we also work very closely with businesses, and I think whether it's in Covington or Florence, at CVG, in Williamstown or Carrollton, where we have all those different locations, and at 3 different libraries, employers are a key part of this mix. Employers can come to us and get help having hiring events, thinking about strategy, and Grow is such a huge way for us to connect to all the different partners to really be able to leverage what's happening and be able to refer employers really seamlessly. So that's just been really great. We served through the Career Center about 1,000 individual businesses last year. We're on track to serve about that number again this year. But some of those businesses, they come to us, they have like a quick need, and then they're kind of ready to, go on and do their thing. Some businesses need really in-depth services, and that's where the SWAT comes in. Strategic Workforce Action Team, or SWAT, is our way as Grow partners to really wrap around those businesses that might have a complex or multiple workforce challenges and really come to the table as one group and really listen. We listen first and talk about hear what they need, and then try to respond. It's been great, Lisa. I'm hoping that I'm right when I say we've had 27 of those meetings over the last, maybe 2-ish years. And it has really been a way to serve those businesses in a really comprehensive manner. And then we're able to connect back in as partners and make sure, hey, did you get them what they needed? Oh, you know what? They need an additional thing. Let's work together on that. It really has been excellent. And so we're just really proud to be a part of that effort. And, as Frankfurt continues to send some of their workforce funding to other parts of the state, we've got to leverage our assets and resources so we can support one of the state's largest economies. So just happy to be a part of that. Thanks, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you. And sitting in those SWAT meetings, I have learned so much listening to the partners as they counsel and really coach the employer. I feel like I can tell the story of each of our partners pretty well now that I've been in those 27 meetings. So absolutely, I love it. Thank you. So next, my question is for you, Dr. Chesser. We've talked a lot about the here and the now, hearing from Tara and her group about the things that they're doing to serve employer needs. And I think it's important to note that employers not only have to respond and react to current market needs, but they also, obviously have to work to grow pipelines into their organizations. So can you speak to the group about some new methods created by Grow Northern Kentucky partners to not only support growing our talent pipelines, but also to support the work-based learning needs of students across the region, and specifically kind of highlight some of that effort towards Covington students?
Absolutely. And I think, Jennifer, we're going to share the screen for this part. First of all, in Northern Kentucky, here are a few numbers that we looked at a couple of years ago in 2018 when we were developing the Grow Pillar 2 process. Pillar 2 is for college career readiness. And so what we found is we have about 19,000 students in all of Northern Kentucky, high school students. Out of that 190,000 students, about 195 were engaged in some sort of internship. Now you're going to see where we look at work-based learning way beyond internships. These were internships that their schools said students were involved in, could be after school, in the summer, an hour a day, may or may not be related to a very specific career pathway. Also at that time in 2018, we did this survey with all high schools in Northern Kentucky. There were 15 students who were involved in registered apprenticeships. Now, granted, 195 and 15, that's not a great number, right? It's a little over 1% out of our 190,000 students. We also knew that number 68 stands for the percentage of students in Northern Kentucky who have completed a college or career readiness accountability measure, according to the State Department of Education. We don't have to get into all of that, but that means that we need every single student to at least meet benchmark on ACT or take dual credit, AP, or we need them to complete an industry credential, a certificate. We have about 68% of the students right now who do one or the other. And then that 50% number has to do with the percentage of students who are completing a degree in college, a 4-year degree, a 2-year degree, a credential, a certification. Now, for some of our communities and students and districts, it's much lower than that. But even our ones who are at the higher level aren't getting to the point where they have more than 1 out of 2 students able to do that. So obviously, we've got work to do. And just like Mike said, we don't have enough people right now for our workforce, and we're going to work really hard to have people move here. We feel like a very critical strategy is that we grow our own talent. We help our students find their niche. We help our students be successful, have those workplace skills that they need, especially for those high pay, high growth areas, and that we keep them in Northern Kentucky. So college and career readiness, pillar 2, if you want to go on to the next slide, Jennifer, we have, and you can go ahead and do that. We have 4 objectives. We're not going to get really deep into these, but we knew that we needed a comprehensive strategy. Were so many organizations over the last decade or so that have been trying to do this work. And there are some districts who are doing things on their own, but we wanted to make sure that every single student in Northern Kentucky, whether those are the students in Covington Independent Schools, the Diocese of Covington, students in Kenton County, all of our students, that they have the opportunity, that it shouldn't really matter, who your parents are or who your neighbors are, or if your counselor at your school is doing, has a network. Every single student needs this. So objective 1 has to do with the awareness. We're finding way too often, that our families, our students, our counselors don't really know all the options that are out there. They also don't know what the pathways are to those options. So these are just an example of some of the strategies that we've put in place, working with Junior Achievement, working with Navigo. We have a Northern Kentucky College and Career Connector position. We've created a work-based learning manual that's user-friendly. And if you go to the next slide, Jennifer, this gives you an example of all of the different pieces of the system that we're bringing together. We do have a direction setting committee for pillar 2. These are some of them. All these organizations are represented on that. And Stacy Strotman, who you just mentioned, is part of this as well. So we make sure that Covington Partners and Covington Independent Schools is included. And then we have about 130 volunteers that work on each of these together on these objective teams to make sure that we are aligning resources, because there's nothing more frustrated than the overlaps that sometimes happen. So this is objective 1, bringing all the partners together, talking with our industry collaboratives. If you go to the next slide, something that's been a major priority for us, our second objective is to expand work-based learning experiences. And you can see from this chart that goes way beyond just internships, co-ops, registered apprenticeships. We know we have to engage students in other kinds of experiences like career fairs and job shadowing and mentoring and student enterprises, guest speakers and tours, just to get them excited about these areas before they dive really deep into internships and co-ops. So we're going to tell you about an online platform, My Career E3, which we feel like is transformational. We've also worked directly with MIT to look at what are some things we can do to get more businesses involved, and then entrepreneurship pipeline. So go ahead. So My Career E3, we have the soft launch in February. We actually just did a whole session on that yesterday. It is an online platform to connect students to work-based learning opportunities. So this platform that we created based on Indiana's InternNet system is able to be a one-stop shop for all employers to include hundreds of different work-based learning opportunities. And then college and career counselors at high schools, such as with Covington Partners or Covington Independent Schools Homes, can actually go in there and connect students with very specific activities. So we've got businesses can use it, students can use it, families can use it, counselors can use it. Right now, we're focused on 9th through 12th grade in Northern Kentucky, but this has the opportunity to be able to expand to post-secondary, to opportunity youth, to students in college and beyond the Northern Kentucky region. If you go on to the next page, entrepreneurship pipeline. It was exciting to hear the focus on entrepreneurship. We also know that our students, we want to grow an entrepreneurial mindset. And so we have several different strategies from a really young age all the way up and through NKU and other universities to get more students really thinking about starting their own businesses, innovating their own businesses, even acquisition entrepreneurship, so that we can get to a point where they stay here and grow new businesses. If you can move to the next one. We also know that we've got to make sure that students understand their strengths, their aptitudes, their passions, and what careers might be connected to those. It's really difficult, especially in this day and age, for students to leave 12th grade and not have a clue as to what they want to do. And then we know the debt that happens if you try to go to college 4-year, 2-year, if you're not quite sure. But also we want to make sure that students and businesses are able to connect with students that might have specific aptitudes and talents in certain areas. And then objective 4, which is the next one, last one, has to do with access and success. We are partnering with all of the different universities to really increase the level of dual credit completion that our students have. I know that Covington Independent Schools has been working really hard in that area, and we want to bring more to many of those schools and those students. We know that if students complete 12 or more dual credit hours while they're in high school, they have a 70% greater chance of completing a degree, whether it's a 4-year, a 2-year credential. So we've got to work on that as well to make sure that our students are successful. And the last thing I want to say is, you talked about the job I have right now, Lisa, but one of my favorite jobs was as an elementary teacher at 9th District in Covington. And so I'm also connected to Covington Independent Schools, and we want to make sure that all of those students have many, many opportunities. So thank you.
Oh, I love that. Thanks, Karen. I really appreciate your work. And as I said, you are going to be so missed. I think I'm just going to put you on speed dial anyway.
Sure.
So Kristen, last but certainly not least, you've been at the table with this Grow Northern Kentucky partnership from the very beginning, serving in the talent attraction and retention focus area specifically. And I know you've partnered with us along the way to really do a deep dive in some of the data. And after significant discovery work with both employers and with our community members, your team really learned early that being a welcoming community was going to be key to the success of our workforce development strategy. And on tagging on to Karen's presentation and also Mike's representation of sharing that we have a simple math problem. We have a lot of jobs and not enough people. And then, Karen talking about our students, recognizing that we found we have 70+ languages spoken across Northern Kentucky schools. Can you speak to the group about some of the work you are leading around the diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts of Grow Northern Kentucky, as well as provide an update to the group about the Northern Kentucky Welcoming Plan and what that means for our community?
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for having me, Lisa, and the rest of the esteemed panel. I'm just thrilled and honored to be among you here. So yeah, within the talent attraction and retention pillar through Grow, there's certainly a heavy emphasis on promoting a more welcoming, inclusive, and equitable region that will help us not only retain diverse talent within the region, but also attract new talent, specifically diverse talent, into our region. And so within our talent attraction and retention pillar, we aimed to do this in a couple ways. First, to Lisa's point, we had to really clearly understand where we were as a region. So we conducted some community-based research and did some discovery work to identify the challenges and barriers that exist for community members of color to belong and to thrive in the region. And then secondly, we leveraged the the wonderful feedback that we got from that discovery work, the lived experience, the expertise of our diverse populations, to really develop some strategies that will help make them feel more at home here, while also identifying things that will make our region more attractive to newcomers of color. So we focused, we kind of laser focused in on integrating immigrants into our community economically, socially, and civically, because of the strong presence of the immigrant community and the fact that the vast majority of growth within our region is largely attributed to immigrants. Over the past decade, 77% of positive net migration to the region is due to immigrants. And it's also key to note that immigrants who come to the region are primarily working age and are highly degreed, which really helps us, as we know that our workforce is aging and there are skills gaps that continue to persist. So of course, while our long-term strategy is focused on better training and educational opportunities for all Kentuckians, tapping into the immigrant communities in the region for talent really helps our bottom line and helps create more competitive advantage of businesses in both the short term and the long term. So knowing all of that information, we really focused on integrating immigrants into our region. And in March of last year, the Northern Kentucky Chamber launched its welcoming plan to do just that. To develop the welcoming plan, we formed a cross-functional team of representatives from businesses and organizations across all industries that directly impact immigrant communities, including healthcare, public safety, business and industry, marketing and communications, and local government, of course. And the first thing our task force did was conduct that discovery work. We did lots of interviews through that process. It became abundantly clear that immigrants contribute significantly to our region in a myriad of ways. However, there are some serious and significant barriers that exist to them being able to engage in the workforce. So as of right now, as I said, we've launched our plan, which is very exciting. It's been, there have been several ways that we've been implementing key strategies. The plan consists of 3 opportunity areas that came directly from that community-based discovery work that we engaged in. The first strategy, or the first opportunity area, is building belonging through community connections. And that really involves celebrating the global diversity that exists within our region, and making sure that our immigrant populations can engage with civic organizations to be more involved in decision-making that happens within our region. The second opportunity area is to ensure safety, health, and equitable access to services. And we've engaged St. Elizabeth Healthcare and several other organizations that have been involved in really making sure that language access is available across public services, specifically to make sure that our immigrant populations can receive necessary services that they need to survive and thrive in the region in their native language. And then the third aspect, of course, is engaging immigrants in workforce development by supporting businesses who are interested in engaging immigrants in the workforce, but don't exactly know where to start or how to navigate that process and what that exactly looks like. So if you are interested, or you have some questions around how you as a business can really make sure that you are creating an environment that is welcoming and open to immigrants, you can certainly reach out to our very own Lisa Mulcahy. She's been working directly with Cincinnati Compass, which is a local organization that helps provide resources for businesses in the region, specifically focused on engaging immigrants in the workforce. And it's been a phenomenal journey to engage in this process. I've certainly learned a lot, and the partners that we've engaged on our broad task force has been so instrumental in making sure that we are moving forward as a region to create that welcoming environment.
Thank you so much, Kristen. And just a quick question for everyone. And Kristen, if you want to kick this off as well, and then we'll go around the group just very briefly. If some of the attendees today would like to get engaged with Grow Northern Kentucky, give them just a general idea of where to start. Kristen, can you lead us on that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So first and foremost, please reach out to any of us on this panel. You can certainly start with Lisa, but reach out if something that you heard today really piques your interest or you'd like to learn more about it. The other thing I would say is support immigrant-owned businesses, especially those in Covington. There are several. Tom actually mentioned Gutierrez Deli a little earlier today, but there are several immigrant-owned businesses, companies, shops, restaurants, what have you, within Covington and beyond. So make sure that you are doing a little bit of digging and research on those organizations and support them where you can. And lastly, advocate for language access services within your companies, especially if you have service-oriented business models, really making sure that there's an opportunity for you to engage with other cultures and folks for whom English is not their first language. Definitely look into resources that exist to help with that language access barrier.
Thanks so much, Kristen. And now, Karen, would you like to share with the group some ways that businesses can get involved with Grow Northern Kentucky?
Sure. And I was putting in the chat the website, but you can just Google it, My Career E3. We need businesses to provide opportunities for kids. It's really easy to enter your ideas. They can be everything from, hey, I'll give a group tour, I'll do a virtual guest speaker, or an internship co-op. If you would offer those opportunities for our students, we can make sure that we connect. You can choose the schools that you want to partner with. So we can definitely have students from Holmes High School, Holmes Middle School, anybody you would like connected, or you can reach farther than that. That's the primary thing that we are, really asking everyone to do. We said 19,000 students. Well, we'd like to have 19,000 opportunities for those students.
Mm-hmm.
So please register today. I'm sure Amanda or Lisa will put their email in as well in case someone wants to connect.
Yes, thank you so much, Karen. Really appreciate it. And Tara, you have lots of opportunity.
I do have lots of opportunities. If someone would like to get involved kind of on the funding and oversight side, we would love to talk to them about the WIB, the board itself, or some of our committees that are thinking about programming for job seekers who are thinking maybe about how their company maybe could benefit from some of the services at the Career Center. Whether you need maybe a video tour of your operation that you can share with people that are candidates, anything like that, feel free to reach out to me and I can connect you with some of our staff. And then on the, local side, I would also say from the Area Development District, we need companies who are willing to host some of our clients. We have paid internships for young adults, and we will pay the cost of hiring that person. They actually end up being technically an employee of Brighton Center, but you can have them, you can train them for up to 6 months right now. And then, if you like that person, if they're a great fit for your company, awesome. Maybe you can hire them when they're finished and you already have a ready trained person for your staff, but you don't have to hire them at the end. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody. That person gets work experience and you get somebody who's going to have kind of a whole team of people behind them. So if you're interested in employing one of our young adults, we would love to talk to you about that too. I'll put my contact information in the chat.
Great. Thank you, Terry. And I want to give a big shout out for that program because we've had a couple of interns and have had amazing success. So thank you for that. And Mike, let's close with you. As an employer, what would you recommend? How do you recommend these businesses get engaged with this work?
I think you heard from the three smarter ones on the panel other than me. So I will tell you this is honestly just get engaged. There's always an opportunity. Similar to the others, I think you share our contact information. Look, we will only succeed as a region if we partner together on some things. And so for us, it's really just about getting engaged. Obviously, Lisa's a great resource and everything else that from Kristen to Tara to Karen as recommended and suggested and so forth. But really just start with raising your hand and reaching out, and we'll be glad to partner to our success together as a region is really what matters to us at the end of the day. So.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike. And having those industry voices at the table, and I think you can look at the panel today and see that we definitely have industry representation and really do take it very seriously, making sure that we're being guided by that industry voice. So really appreciate that support. Thank you so much. And with that, Pat, I will pass it back to you and possibly take any questions that your participants have for the panelists.
Yes, and I should have mentioned this, great information, all of you. And I should have mentioned this earlier, as far as the chat. If you have any questions, put them into the chat, but we do have one, and we have time for a few others if folks want to weigh in. And this question is kind of direct to Kristen. Kristen, you talked about the immigrant population. Can you get any more specific about the different ethnic groups, from countries and things like that? I know some people may be surprised at some of the different groups that are entering our region.
Yeah, absolutely. So we did some research. We were very fortunate to get a grant through the national, so it was through a national organization that supports communities to develop a welcoming plan. And they helped do some research on the specific immigrant populations that exist within our region. So that included, we have a pretty significant Guatemalan population. We have quite a significant Burmese Chin population, Somali population. There's a broad variety of groups that are represented in Northern Kentucky specifically. And to your point, Pat, yeah, absolutely. I think people may be surprised by that because you may be considering, some other populations that may exist here. But yeah, those are kind of the larger three that really exist here in Northern Kentucky.
Okay, great, thank you. I
would love to, sorry to cut you, but I am certainly happy to send over the research that was conducted so folks can see that. I know, Lisa, you have that, but I'm more than happy to send that, as well as our welcoming plan, so folks can see exactly what's in there.
And I believe Amanda Johanneman put the welcoming plan in the chat as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Amanda.
Right. We do have one question here. This company is experiencing a critical shortage for CDL logistics drivers. How is Grow assisting individuals with interest in obtaining a CDL license?
We're working directly with Gateway Community and Technical College on their CDL program. And Tara, would you like to speak to that as well?
I was just going to comment that we have ways that we are forwarding any of the job seekers that come into the Career Center to that program as well, in a cohort model, so that we can try to get definitely additional people. In fact, I ended up answering the phones at the Career Center the other day just to kind of get a feel for what was going on. And I had somebody come in that they were looking to get their CDL. So I know we're definitely forwarding individuals, but that's a huge need in the community as well. Yeah.
Great. I don't see any other questions. Lisa, was there anything else in wrapping up? Anything else you wanted to say?
No, just that I wanted to highlight again, when Tara mentioned the Strategic Workforce Action Team, we bring over a dozen partners to the table around an employer that's having significant workforce challenges or just simply wants to better get to know our workforce ecosystem. It's an opportunity for us to meet you and learn more about your organization. And it's certainly an opportunity for our partners to share resources with you more effectively and efficiently. So if you would like a SWAT meeting, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to get that scheduled.
Great. Wonderful information. And, when I was talking to Lisa a number of weeks ago about the specifics about what you were all going to present and some of the impact that Grow NKY has had since its inception 3 years ago, I guess it was, it's just amazing. And it's so helpful to our community. So Lisa, panel, thank you very, very much. We also want to say thanks to St. Elizabeth Healthcare for serving as title sponsor. Don't forget to join us in person at the Grand next month as CBC Luncheons return in person. We'll be again discussing the work-based mentoring program through Covington Partners, through the works of Executive Director Stacy Strotman of Covington Partners. So thank you again for joining us today. Have a great start to your weekend. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.